What's going on, Guardians? It's Tizzle here, and in this video I'm going to be breaking down what each exotic class item perk on the Warlock does and how it compares to the original exotic piece that inspired it. We have 16 different class item perks to get to, so for the sake of brevity I won't be showing all the testing I conducted. For example, I tested the damage of supers with and without biotic enhancements to see if Spirit of Synthoceps actually buffs our super damage, despite the perk just saying that it increases melee damage. I did this because, as we know, Bungie's spaghetti code often works in weird ways. Instead, I will just be saying what the Spirit perk does and how it differs from the original exotic, because the point of this video is to help you determine exactly what these Spirit perks do so that you can more easily build craft around them. I was curious myself on some of these differences, so I figured I would make this video to help out the community because I figured they may be interested as well. This video obviously took a ton of time and effort, from farming the exotic class items in the first place to doing the testing and finally editing it all into video form. Countless hours have been spent on this project, so if you'd be so kind as to like and subscribe, it would mean a lot to me. Timestamps are below if you're just looking for a certain perk and want to know how it works. With all that out of the way, let's jump into the video. We will go in alphabetical order, meaning Apotheosis Veil is up first. The regular exotic states we immediately regen health, melee, grenade, and rift energy for you and nearby allies upon activating your super. After your super ends, temporarily gain greatly increased melee and grenade regen. And then the class item version states we temporarily gain increased melee and grenade regeneration after our super ends. But this doesn't tell the whole story actually. After doing my testing, we can see we also get the health back with cure times 3 when we cast our super, and it gives us our rift back. So right off the bat, we have an exotic doing more than the description states, which is why I wanted to test these in-game. Here's hoping Bungie doesn't nerf it to only give us melee and grenade energy for 8 seconds when our super ends, but time will tell. Next we have Assassin's Cowl. So the main version states powered melee final blows grant invisibility and restore a portion of health and shields. Finishers and final blows against more powerful targets increase the duration of the invisibility and the amount of health and shields restored. Where the Spirit version states finishers and powered melee final blows grant invisibility. So you still get a longer duration of invis based on the tier of enemy defeated, but what you no longer get on this is the health back on kill. Next is Claws of Ahamkara. The regular version states you gain an additional melee charge and then powered melee final blows spawn an orb of power, where the Spirit version just gives the additional melee charge, and you can simply make an orb of power by equipping a heavy-handed mod. So overall, the Spirit version is pretty much the same and can be really nice for melee based builds. And it even gives an extra melee charge with something like Arcane Needle so that you can have 4 charged melees. After that, we have Heart of Inmost Light. This exotic states using an ability empowers the other 2 abilities. Empowered means abilities have faster regen, melees and grenades do more damage, and barricades have more hit points. While the Spirit version just says using an ability empowers the other 2 abilities, granting them improved energy regeneration. So essentially we are only supposed to get the quicker ability cooldown from this exotic and not the damage increase. But during my testing, I often had an ability deal 25% more damage than it was supposed to. What is interesting is, according to the Destiny Data Compendium, Empowered times 1 is 20% more damage for the grenade and 35% more at times 2, and for the melee it's 10% more melee damage and 20% more at times 2. But interestingly, the class ability regen rate reduction at times 1 is 25%. So for some reason, I think it may give a 25% damage bonus instead of, or in addition to, reducing the class ability regen rate. When testing, the only result I could sometimes get was 25% more damage. However, this was inconsistent, so I don't know how to trigger it consistently. But it happened enough that it was driving me nuts. I took off all my fragments thinking something was buffing it. I swapped class items to a different one with Inmost Light, thinking that maybe the second perk on the class item was causing the damage increase. I tried different melee and grenade abilities, but nope, it would happen time and time again. So I'm sure the intended version of Spirit of Inmost Light is to just give reduced ability cooldowns, but at least for now, it may also buff your ability damage sometimes. Regardless, you can see on screen what the Destiny Data Compendium numbers are for regen rate, and I'm going to assume that these numbers are correct. At the end of the day, it definitely speeds up your regen rate a little, and that is very helpful in a subclass like Prismatic with so much ability spam. Next, we have Mantle of Battle Harmony, and this one actually does what it says. The exotic reads, final blows with weapons matching your equipped super damage type grant you super energy. When your super energy is full, you instead gain a temporary bonus to weapon damage of that type. In the Spirit version states final blows with weapons that have a damage type matching your super's element grant you super energy. In my opinion, this is the stronger of the perks anyways on this exotic. I like Mantle Battle Harmony, but I usually used it for the fast supers more than I used it for the 25% weapon damage boost after we had our super charged. So I quite like the class item version of this exotic, and I do think it's very strong. Next we have Necrotic Grip. Damaging a target with a melee poisons them, dealing increased damage over time. Defeating a poison target spreads the condition. Provides a moderate benefit to the AE stat of all weapons of sorrow, where the class item states damaging targets with your melee poisons them. Defeating a poison target spreads the condition. So this one isn't as good as the base exotic in my opinion. Yes, it can still spread poison, but sadly, that poison doesn't ramp up in damage over time. And in my opinion, that is one thing that makes Necrotic Grip so strong, especially in endgame content. Damage over time is a very powerful effect in Destiny, and the Spirit version of Necrotic doesn't have near as much DOT potency as the exotic gloves. That being said, it is still good for spreading poison, so it is strong in ad-dense activities. Ophidian Aspect is next. I love these gloves. They ready and reload weapons very quickly and provide a small benefit to the AE stat of any weapon. But the class item version just says they ready weapons quickly. Obviously, having high handling on your weapons is great, especially in PvP or DPS encounters, but the Spirit version does not give enhanced AE or quicker reload speed. Next is Osmiomancy. The exotic gloves state your cold snap grenades have an additional charge that recharges quicker on direct impact. The seeker spawn from cold snap grenades travels further. And the Spirit version just says your grenades recharge quicker on hits, and the seeker spawn from cold snap grenades travels further. So we don't get a second grenade charge here, even with cold snaps. This also works with healing grenades if you heal your teammates, and I think it even works on the Transcendence grenade, though it was a bit tough to tell. It sucks on threadling grenades, so I definitely wouldn't use it with those. It's based on hits, and as you can see, that's perfect for cold snap grenades. But since threadling grenades just spawn a threadling that hits once, it's not really good. As for Storm and Vortex grenades, if you're accurate with them, then Spirit of Osmiomancy will definitely be pretty decent, as you can get some good chunks of grenade energy back. Next is Secant Filaments. While using a Void super, casting an Empowering Rift will grant you Devour. Damage dealt by you and your allies from within your Empowering Rift will disrupt combatants. So basically, the regular version of this exotic gives your weapons overload rounds, but the Spirit version just grants you Devour, which is still exceptionally strong. Basically means that you don't have to run Feed the Void as an aspect, and then you can extend Devour like normal. I tested it and it does not work with Phoenix Dive or Healing Rifts as expected, but what is cool about the Spirit version is the Empowering Rift will actually grant you Devour with any super equipped and not just Nova Bomb, so that's pretty awesome. Next is Star Eater Scales. The regular version gives you bigger chunks of super energy every time you pick up an Orb of Power. And then when you pick up Orbs of Power after your super is charged, you gain stacks of Feast with Light so your super does more damage. And if you cast your super at max stacks of Feast of Light, you get an Overshield. But the Spirit of Star Eater only gives the best portion of this exotic, and that is the super damage. At max stacks of Feast of Light, this is a 70% increase to your super, which is obviously substantial. The rest of the damage increases are on screen now, but for the testing, I just tested the base super and the max stacks version of the super. I'll play the side by sides for you so you can see how much harder every super hits for. This is definitely a strong class item perk. Up next is Starfire Protocol, which was once one of the strongest exotics in Destiny. It states fusion grenades have an additional charge and recharge from empowered weapon damage, with empowered weapon final blows granting more energy. Defeating targets with fusion grenades grants rift energy. Where Spirit of Starfire states grenades recharge from empowered weapon damage, with empowered weapon final blows granting more energy. So unfortunately, we can't get our rift back instantly from a grenade kill, but we can get a ton of grenade energy for getting kills while in an empowering rift. They do have to be weapon final blows though. I tried standing in a rift with my Hellion getting kills, and I got no additional grenade energy back. This is a very strong exotic for grenade based builds. Up next is Swarmers. Destroying a Tangle spawns a Threadling. Your Threadlings unravel targets. Where the Spirit of the Swarm just has your Tangles spawn Threadlings, there's no unraveling. And unraveling is arguably the best part of running Swarmers, so Spirit of the Swarm is a miss for me. Up next is my favorite exotic, Synthoceps. When you're surrounded, gain increased melee and super damage, as well as improved weapon handling and reload speed. And then Spirit of Synthoceps just gives us the increased melee damage when we are surrounded. All the melee damage increases are the same as with Synthoceps, and it even works with glaives. But we do not get the 50% damage increase to our super, or the better handling and reload speed on our weapons when we're surrounded. Overall, this is still very strong, especially on something like Incinerator Snap Melee, and you could really make some fun builds around these. Next is the Stag. It states your rift provides damage reduction to allied guardians standing in it. Grants rift energy when you are critically wounded. On your death, creates a healing rift on your corpse. Now, for some reason, the healing rift is not spawning when I die when wearing the actual Stag helmet. I'm not really sure why. The Spirit class item perk just says you get damage reduction when standing in your rift. This works with healing rift or empowering rift, but not with Phoenix Dive. Next, we have Verity's Brow. Weapon final blows with a damage type matching your equipped grenade grant death throws, which provide a grenade damage bonus and grant you grenade energy. When you have death throws and throw a grenade, nearby allies gain greatly increased grenade regeneration for a short time. And then Spirit of Verity states weapon final blows with a damage type matching your grenade grant stacking grenade damage bonus. So basically, this exotic loses the Field of Flames portion where when you throw your grenade, your allies have greatly increased grenade regeneration, but it maintains death throws. So we get 50% additional base grenade regen rate, and our grenades hit for 20% more per stack, up to 5 stacks for 100% more or double the damage. And this also works with the Transcendence grenade, which is really nice. Sadly, we don't have the strongest grenades on Prismatic Warlock, but it is pretty decent with Vortex grenades, especially with Facet of Dominance and Expanding Abyss. And that brings us to our last exotic, Vesper of Radius. This states rifts periodically release an arc shockwave. Final blows with these shockwaves create an arc explosion. While an arc super is equipped, the shockwaves and subsequent explosions blind nearby targets. Rift energy recharges faster when you are surrounded by combatants. So this is genuinely a very strong exotic, but sadly the Spirit version only gives our rift shockwaves. There is no extreme rift regeneration increase when surrounded. We just get rifts that send out a small shockwave. But one thing that is nice is if you're running Storm Trance, then you will still be able to blind enemies. So that definitely makes it a bit better and potentially worth running if you want to run an Arc Super. And that is it for the video. I hope it was helpful, and if it was, then a like and subscription would be greatly appreciated. I'm working on the Hunter and Titan versions as well, so make sure you check those out when they drop. Lastly, if you're still here, thanks so much for watching to the end. I appreciate it. Good luck getting your exotic class item god rolls, and take care.